I'm I'm not gonna clap it. It's too loud. Also, it might mess with. I got one of those microphones. I need to get a better clip for it. It's terrible. But anyway, so today we're doing a little prep work for average student film, and I decided it will take place on April 2nd, 2005. So then, even though it might not have anything really to do with the story, I'll probably mention it or something. I looked up the number one song for the day, which was Candy Shop by 50 Cents. Wow, I just said 50 Cents, like an old person. The number one movie at the box office was Sin City. The number one current event for the day was the death of Pope John Paul II, to which I thought, man, I thought he died longer ago than that, before realizing that 2005 was 20 years ago. Yes. One thing is, I'm basically working from scratch on this project. I knew I kind of would. I have an idea of where the story goes, with characters, whatever. I'm figuring that out right now. But one thing is just figuring out where all the characters live, because living in Chicago is very expensive. So a lot of people live farther out in the city or in a neighboring suburb. And I'm thinking on like an average student film shoot, which would stupidly go from like 6 a.m. to midnight, where they're like, let's just do the whole thing. So I looked up uh, how soon people would have to wake up if they had to get a train into the city. Like they have to wake up at 4 a.m. basically to get in there by 6. So that's just some of the prep work I'm doing. One thing, though, I wanted to mention that I glossed over last time. So I mentioned that in production one, the first film production class where you make student films, you don't edit on computers, and I glossed over something, and you do the thing you do the thing where you are literally taking your strip of film, putting it on this little metal editing block, and with a razor blade cutting. So if you can kind of see on this thing, all these little, just like little marks, those are all tape splices. I did a lot in this film, and it was always terrifying to get your splice just right, because you want to use the smallest amount of tape to hold it together, because these old crappy projectors would rip your film apart. It didn't matter how great your splices were. Everyone's film, someone had to, the TA had to restart it. Another thing of doing this is trying not to get caught in fits of nostalgia, and also trying not to use too much, you know, inside baseball terms. Even though, I don't know, it's tricky, because back then, in the early 2000s, sort of the, the golden age of DVDs, is so many people watched those DVD special features. Like, if you remember if you remember, the millennials out there, the Lord of the Rings trilogy extended editions had like hours and hours and hours of documentary stuff on there. And before I even went to film school, I learned a lot from watching those documentaries that were on like every DVD. And now, of course, they're not anywhere really. So, anyway, I've gone on too long. Just doing a little work on average student film. See you later.